Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. All right, guys, welcome to today's episode of the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how a growth mindset can help you be successful at CrossFit. I'm Andrew Frezza. I'm joined here by some of our coaches. I'll let them introduce themselves so we can hear their voices.
Hi, I'm Tony Frezza.
Hi, I'm Whitney Stevenson.
Hi, I'm Coach B or Brendan
Williams. All right, so today we're going to be talking about a concept that I came across in a TED Talk or YouTube video a while back, and it's this concept of having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And as I've been learning more about this, I'm seeing it play out in the gym in all these different ways. And I'm seeing a lot of the people who end up quitting CrossFit or drop off from CrossFit or maybe lose motivation. They very much have a fixed mindset in a lot of ways, and they're not making that transfer over to having a growth mindset. And I think some of us have a growth mindset in some areas of our life and don't have it in others. So we want to kind of expose how you can have a growth mindset and apply it to CrossFit, and how that really will dramatically change your experience and the level of success that you have in the gym and outside the gym as well. So basically what the growth mindset is, and this is really applied to intelligence first and foremost, and we're kind of applying it to fitness. So the idea is that most people, or maybe not most people, but a lot of people think intelligence is static. It's a fixed thing. You're born intelligent, you have a certain IQ, and that's kind of what you're limited with. And there's another group of people that have a growth mindset that they believe intelligence is something you can develop over time. It's something that you can learn and train and study for and develop it over time. And the same thing's true as fitness. A lot of people view your fitness abilities as things you're born with, things that you just have. You have these natural abilities. But we know as CrossFit coaches that we see all the time where these fitness skills are being developed over time. And it's something that you can definitely train, definitely develop. And I think on the surface, all of us think we know that is true, but we're going to kind of expose some areas where we see this fixed mindset playing out more than people might realize. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about with having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset is the ability to embrace challenges versus avoiding challenges, wanting to avoid challenges. So let's go from there. Who's got something?
Yeah, I think that starts with if you're cherry picking, right? If you're showing up to the workouts that you know you're good at, it already shows you that you're trying to avoid the challenges, you're trying to avoid the failure, and not challenging yourself to actually try to fail. I think if you go into each day, each workout, and you have a goal to fail, you're going to have much more success going that route rather than trying to avoid failure.
Also to add, some athletes may come in the gym for a certain workout and choose to go a lot lighter on that workout and to go faster or to beat certain people in the class. And you want to make sure that you're challenging yourself and pushing yourself so that you're not just going fast to just be the fastest one, but you're pushing yourself to get better. So not looking at others and be like, oh, I know they're going to beat me, I'm going to go lighter. I'm going to challenge myself so that I can progress in the sport and not just get through this because I want to go super fast.
Yeah, I think we've kind of all had that experience of coming to a class and like trying to make a lift and failing, and then you get that feeling of like, oh, like I failed. And that fixed mindset is like you failed and that's it. That's the end of your ability. Like that you can't do any more. And kind of working through that and being able to maybe tell yourself like, okay, not yet. All right, maybe not that time, but maybe if I give myself, 30 more seconds rest, maybe then I'll get it. And kind of being able to work beyond that, like just that first feeling of failure. I think it's really easy to hide behind your potential. That was something I used to do when I swam all the time, was I kind of was able to just hide behind the fact that like, well, I worked so hard and that's why I didn't, I trained really hard this week, that's why I didn't swim fast in this race. Or, these circumstances happened, but I'm really, I swam this fast in practice, so when the circumstances are right, I'll be able to perform the right way. And it was sort of that fixed mindset of like me just kind of like being afraid to like lay it all on the table and then maybe be like, yeah, I'm not as good as I want to be. And kind of like taking that and looking at that and being like, all right, I'm not as good as I want to be yet, and I have the ability to get there, and what do I need to do to get there?
Yeah, one of the things that always comes to mind, like this is something that I've had to work really hard on, is changing the way that you look at challenges, changing the way you look at failure, and kind of rephrasing that in your head. And the phrase that I always go back to is a book that I read called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's a really key mindset shift to see problems, to see obstacles, and you get that initial reaction that Whitney's talking about where it's like, it's deep inside of you. You feel anxious, you feel nervous, you feel fear. And to be able to change your self-talk around that, where you actually can actually find some excitement about that thing you're nervous about, that workout that scares you a little bit, or the workout you want to avoid, you want to cherry pick around, or owning a business, those conversations you don't want to have. We all have conversations that we don't want to have. All those things is really, to me, about that idea of embracing challenges and finding a way to get excited about them and seeing how they're going to help you grow rather than avoiding them and only seeing that initial reaction, which is that fear of failure or anxiousness or whatever that might come along with it.
Yeah, and not to get off the topic of CrossFit, but Andrew and I were both baseball players growing up. And I don't think any athlete learns failure like a baseball player does. Even the most successful baseball players, who hit 300, 350 as a batting average, that means they're still failing 7 out of 10 times, right? So they have to get used to failure a lot in order to be successful in their craft, in their sport. I remember I had a coach specifically who told us, he asked us at the beginning of the season, how many times have you guys got thrown out stealing? And everyone was like, oh, never. We're good, we're fast. We steal and we get safe every time. And he's like, well, then you're not stealing enough. He's like, I'm going to congratulate you when you get thrown out, because that means you actually push the limit on a good throwing catcher or a fast pitcher to the plate, and you actually try to reach your limits, right? Rather than just going for safe every time.
I love it. So kind of the next part of that growth versus fixed mindset is persisting in the face of setbacks versus giving up easily. Where have you guys seen that play out in a CrossFit gym, or can you think of any instances where that has played out specifically? Silence.
We never fail. No, we never.
I mean, every day you see people put a capacity on their own abilities. Not to take away from when it's safe to do so. Obviously, you want to scale when it's appropriate, but I think just mentally, just being able to say to yourself, well, I can't do that, or I'm not going to do that, or that in itself is a fixed mindset, and there's a practice that comes along with changing it into a growth mindset of, all right, I'm not going to do that today, but I usually use the green band, and today I'm going to use the blue band or the red band. And I can't do strict pull-ups yet, but I'm going to use a shorter box and do jumping pull-ups and really work on a long pull. There's kind of that difference between putting that capacity on yourself of well, this is as good as it's gonna get ever, and then being able to say to yourself, well, okay, this is where I want to be, this is where I am, and I'm going to take the next step to get there.
Yeah, I see a couple different ways where it plays out. On more of a long-term scale, I see where people will have a day where they don't hit the weight they want to lift. So let's say we're doing a strength workout and they kind of came in with the mindset, oh, today I think I can hit 150, or today's the day I'm going to try to PR. I'm going to try to hit 155, on a back squat, and they don't do it. It's easy to negate the work that's taken place up to that point, and to kind of give up and to kind of throw it all away when really that could have just been a rough day or whatever it might be. And you can't discount the process that's taken place to get there. And you may, a week later, be able to persist and do more than that. So I see people kind of giving up easily in that aspect. I also see it within given workouts where kind of like you get, let's say it's a 10-minute workout, you get 5 minutes into the workout and that pain really starts to show up, and people have a tendency to let the mental take over the physical. We always can push a little bit more physically than mentally we want to, but they'll put too much stock in the mental side of things, and they'll hold back physically when they had a little bit more. And they'll end that workout in 10 minutes and kind of walk away when they could have really, that pain showed up in the last 5 minutes, they could have refocused their energy, pushed it those last 5 minutes, and then that 10 minutes hits and they're just on the ground and they feel really, really successful and proud of that achievement of giving it all that they could have done in that workout.
Yeah, so if you find yourself giving up in workouts, giving up on a day when you just started, the first 10 minutes of an hour and you've already given up, try to work towards being okay with failure and going through it and just bouncing back, right? Because that's what we're trying to get across with the growth mindset, is that you bounce back quickly from failure and you just get right back into it, like it didn't even bother you.
I feel like a lot of people feel like they're stuck sometimes. Like we have this skill in RX and RTG and stuff like that in our gym, and they get stuck in the mindset of saying, oh, I'm just a skilled athlete. I'm coming in, I'm doing skilled every day this week. And then there has to be a day where you think to yourself, I'm not a skilled athlete. I'm going to go for the RX today. Or same thing as RX to RTG or whatever it may be.
And there's an in-between too. You don't have to make the full leap.
Definitely. I mean, if the weights are dramatic from 105 to 135, do 115. Like, you guys can grow a little bit each time. You don't have to jump all the way up like you're saying, Andrew. But doing a little bit each day, keep on growing.
I think this is one of the greatest gifts that CrossFit kind of gave me is kind of going through these workouts. I figured out how I talk to myself. And when I'd get to that point of wanting to stop, I'd be like, I'm so tired, this sucks, I suck, I'm terrible. I suck is something I've always said to myself.
That's what I'm saying when you work out. You suck, you're no good. And,
I realized, I wish I realized this when I was swimming. My mindset didn't change. This is, I'm talking my first year of CrossFit. This is what I'm realizing that I'm saying to myself is that I'm not good enough, I suck, I'm tired today. Again, trying to hide behind that potential of what's to come, and that's terrible. I do not want to talk to myself like that. I want to be my own biggest cheerleader. So when I get in those situations, I can get myself through it. I can have that growth mindset of all right, maybe that thought of I suck comes up, and I'm just, okay, stop. I don't suck. Let's keep going. I got this. I can get through this. Breathe. Find those cues that kind of help you push past that moment of that failure feeling, or that moment of feeling like, oh, I'm falling off my pace, or whatever that is. And I think, if I'm doing it in the gym, I'm doing it in my life.
Yep.
If I'm talking to myself like that in the gym, I'm talking to myself like that if I'm making breakfast, or I'm driving a certain way, or I'm running late for something, and that's really not a healthy way to exist in this state of negativity and being down on yourself. So I'm super grateful that CrossFit literally opened the doors for me and opened my eyes to that. And I was like, dang, I need to shift that. I need to change it, and I want to change it. And so that's that practice of shifting your mind into the growth mindset.
Yeah, CrossFit's basically that mirror right in front of your face, showing you what you're really saying to yourself over and over and over again. So the next point we're going to hit on is how we view effort. So growth mindset, we view effort as a path to mastery, whereas a fixed mindset, we see effort as fruitless, or not really worth it. You either have it or you don't. One of the things that I think about, and this might not relate to effort so much, but specifically mastery, when I see that word, is I've seen mastery broken down and the path to mastery broken down. And this is really something that was enlightening to me, is that a lot of people see mastery as this this linear line where you're constantly going up. As you practice and improve, you get a little bit better. And maybe it's a little steeper in the beginning, and then it kind of levels off for people. But what people don't realize is when you go to master something or get really good at something, you go up and you peak slightly, and then you drop slightly, hit a minimal plateau, but then you re-peak higher than you were the last time. But what happens is people peak, so let's use a really specific example, that back squat, that 150 back squat. You hit the 150 back squat, you were feeling good, that was a PR for you. For the next month or two, you may not be able to hit 150 again, and you might hit 145 or 140 and feel like you're doing worse, or you feel like this isn't working, my program's not working, I'm not working hard enough, whatever it might be. But it's just that little dip, that little plateau before you re-peak again. So you may now 2 months later hit 160 or 155 or 165, and you re-peak again, and then it lowers down and it plateaus. And just knowing that you can't sustain your peaks before the next peak is comforting to know that there's going to be this little drop off. And I always found comfort in knowing that that's how mastery works, and that you don't have to keep linearly, that's probably not a word. We'll go with it.
Exponentially?
No, that's like doubling. That's different. Next topic.
Not math.
I want to say off that, like, from the coach's standpoint, because I know there's be coaches listening to this, and parents. When you're a parent, you're always coaching your kids. It's important to not just notice like the grades or like the PRs. Like, okay, you finally hit your 200-pound back squat from 150. Like, where was the celebration along the way? Like, where was like the genuine enthusiasm and celebration to say, wow, you are squatting awesome. Like, you look good. Like, that's where you got to celebrate. You got to celebrate along the way, so that one, your athlete doesn't just think, if I don't hit this, I'm a failure. But two, it gets them loving the process and feeling good along the way. And they'll love the reward even that much better.
Yeah, we definitely have, I don't know if it's a society thing or whatever, but where like the participant ribbon and like the effort is taboo. It's like if you get rewarded because you tried really hard, that's kind of like, some people laugh at that, or they don't appreciate that. Like, they appreciate you being like on top of the podium and not necessarily like the craziness or the discipline or the effort it took to get there. That seems to get, ignored sometimes, or just the effort it took to be the participant. And like, that's in the growth mindset, that process is what is nurtured and what is rewarded, and what in the end actually sets someone apart to be at the top of the podium versus somebody who is just rewarded because they were smart or naturally talented or tall or whatever the order is for them to be in the place that they're in. The effort and the amount of energy and time that it takes to get there in the process is something that should be rewarded within ourselves.
It seems like everybody likes the golden star, the sexiness of whatever's in front of them. And I was actually watching Hard Knocks last night.
Great show.
Really good show. And so even though the first string quarterback goes in every game, he's the man, he throws the touchdowns, the third string quarterback behind the scenes is doing just enough work, if not more, to make better improvements to get that first string spot. So just to say that you're working really hard and you're not getting the position you want to be in, you're still in a really good spot and you're making progress. And that's the main goal. Yeah,
the end result should be like the cherry on top, not the main thing that we're all trying to basically get to necessarily.
It's the ice cream.
It's not the ice cream.
The ice cream helps you get to the goals, right?
It's not the chocolate peanut butter ice cream, Ben & Jerry's. It's
with the sprinkles.
It's the cherry on top.
Okay, cherry.
All right, so next part of the growth versus fixed mindset is learning from criticism versus ignoring useful feedback. To me, this comes down to one word in CrossFit, and that is coachability. Are you coachable? And really is, can you take feedback and be excited about feedback, because that's your ability to get better. That's your opportunity to get better.
I think the first thing with that
I nailed that point. Silence.
It's just being able to absorb it. That's step one. All right, it doesn't matter what they say to you, but just absorbing that they're trying to help you is the first step. If you take people, I mean, if someone's trying to talk to you and you're like, yeah, all right, get away from me, that is not going to be helpful. So just take a second. If they're obviously coming out of their way, taking their time to talk to you, to help you out, fix technique, whatever it is, give you advice on the workout, whatever it may be, just take that in. You don't have to tell them that you're not going to do it or whatever it was. Just take it in and absorb it for a little bit, and that's step one right there.
And some people go the opposite direction. They actually get offended by criticism sometimes, and I think, that's where we need to make a 180 change and really accept the coach's feedback, especially since that's their job. But even if a member comes up to you and tries to help you out, you got to be really open to receive that help from them, and in turn return the favor and help out someone else as well. And just think of criticism as always constructive and never as offending or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why I came to this gym, was because as an athlete, I was talked to when I came through the door. And that was really exciting to me because I felt like this is a place that's going to make me get better. And I didn't care that, I was bringing my knees forward on my squat. I mean, obviously I cared, but I was excited about it because that meant, I can change this and actually excel and get a little bit better. And I think that's part of just not putting a capacity on yourself, being okay with not being 100% right all the time, taking yourself off that pedestal and just being all right, these people around me, they're gonna bring me up. They're gonna help me get better.
Yeah, I had an experience with this myself, and it's kind of CrossFit related, is we went to the CrossFit Level 2 seminar Tony and I did a few weekends ago. And I remember specifically going into the weekend, and while I was there, at times thinking I hope I do well in this drill, or I hope I look good in this drill. And then I kind of was seeing those thoughts and was well, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to show how good of a coach I am. I'm here to learn more to become a better coach. And I think when you come into any environment, CrossFit specifically, trying to prove how good you already are, and that's true even when you've been here for 4 or 5 years, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're closing yourself off to new knowledge and new opportunities for growth that are sitting right in front of you. You got 2 coaches in your class that are literally explaining the workout every single day in a way that's meant to give you new knowledge and new information to help you do better. And when you just kind of say, I already know what this workout is, I already know what we're doing, I can see it on the board, you're missing out on so much that you don't even know because you have this fixed mindset already in place.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it happens a lot in classes. I mean, it may be that you're just, what the workout is on the board, but it's the extra little tidbits that the coaches are giving you that are going to help you through your workout. Or let's say you messed up. Wow, that was a big word.
Messed up.
Yeah, messed up on your strength workout, and you were doing 3 reps instead of doing 2 reps, which did happen this week. And you're doing an extra rep when you're not even supposed to, and you're wondering why you're not getting a higher weight or whatever it may be, and you're just doing it totally wrong, and you missed that opportunity because the coach was explaining what the actual workout was. So staying and listening to what the coach has to say helps a lot because it helps you do the right things.
Awesome. So our next topic is finding inspiration from the success of others versus feeling threatened by the success of others. To me, it's all about the whiteboard, right? Isn't that what you guys think of too? How are people using the whiteboard in the right ways? How are people using the whiteboard in the wrong ways when it comes to this?
I think in the wrong ways, people are going up to the whiteboard and trying to reassure their greatness. All right.
Dude, you just nailed me to a T.
Andrew.
All right, how awesome am I? Okay, yeah, there's someone that sucks. I'm awesome. Okay, that guy really sucked. I'm awesome. And that's not what you want to do. When you go up to the whiteboard, I think it's great to look at classes before you to get a good idea and have a goal of rounds or time.
Definitely.
I think that's a great way to use it. And if you see a great time, genuinely be happy for that person. So a fixed mindset is trying to kind of put themselves above others, where a growth mindset is all right, that guy did awesome. I'm going to congratulate him when I see him next time, and I'm going to try to, match him today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially with the competitors class or the people who participate there, it's something that they want to do. They want to go see, like, oh, how did this person do this morning, or at 4 p.m. or whatever, and then not to necessarily be threatened. Oh, this person did 185 pound clean. Like, oh no. Maybe you think like, that's awesome, good for her, and I'm gonna buddy up with her on Saturday and like see how we stack up compared to each other. Maybe we're gonna be partners. Like, what is that saying? It's like the tide raises all the boats.
The tide does do that.
Yeah, like one tide raises all the boats. Like, you don't want to be the only boat raised, right?
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I don't know it.
I got lost.
But I know the saying. We're on the same page.
Rising
Yeah.
tide raises all.
A rising
Yes.
tide raises all boats.
Nailed
And,
it.
you know, we're
Good job.
We're-
Teamwork right there. Look at that.
exactly. Thanks. Not afraid to look bad on a podcast.
Well, I can't speak. So.
Yeah, the one thing I've had to work on with myself with that is like watching some of our like coaches do a workout and people that I am competing against and using as somewhat of a reference point is there's that little like voice in your head that's like you're cheering someone on, but you're still kind of secretly hoping you're going to beat them and that they're going to be like 9 seconds behind you, like Brendan was today, that I'm definitely pointing out in this podcast right now.
2 seconds behind me.
But like Craig went after me today and like, you know, it like those thoughts creep into your head, but like shutting those thoughts down and saying, no, let me be genuinely happy for this person because if this person's better and they can prove that something can be done faster, well, guess what? I get to train with this person every day. Like I have the advantage of being surrounded by this amazing person, and I know that he probably has insight into how I can be better. He's excelling at something that I'm not as good at, and maybe I can learn from him. So the exposure to that person, kind of like the rising tide quote, or also just like, you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. So if you're always around people that are beating you, you may never actually beat them, but then once you compare to that 6th person who's not in the group, you're gonna be like, wow, I'm now way better than that person and way better than I was previously if you start to compare to yourself.
Yeah, and I think as coaches, like, yeah, it's cool to see like what your best athletes are doing, but I get more out of seeing like someone getting their first RX because that is that rising tide. You know, that's all the boats like that. You're seeing even the smaller boats, you know, the dinghies, rising with the tide.
Hey,
as
first
well.
RX is a pretty serious accomplishment.
That's not no digging.
Yeah. You're at least like a 20-footer at that point, which people in South Florida would know that reference, but. Yeah, I think that's what I like most is like seeing those people get like, you know, a good accomplishment, like a first pull-up today. Saw some first pull-ups, and that's bigger to me than like, you know, an awesome time.
I think it is important, you know, to maintain that growth mindset. You know, when you are surrounded by people that are better than you, it's easy to slip into that comparison and that ego and that like, oh, I feel threatened position. And even if you have a growth mindset, you still might have those thoughts, like they might sneak in there. I remember I did one workout with my training partner now who's amazing at running, like unbelievable. And the first workout I did, she crushed me and I was like, I suck at running. And I was like, no, I don't suck at running. And now I get partnered with this great person who is gonna make me better. And it was kind of like just acknowledging that thought and being able to just kind of be okay with it and then move beyond it and like think about that. All right, that yet, add the yet to the thought. Like I'm not good at running yet and I'm going to be better now that I have this great person to train with. That was just something that I think is important, and if I didn't have that mindset and I maintained that like I suck at running, you know, I could have my same training partner and I could still suck at running just because I'm not mentally shifting. I'm not allowing myself to grow that way.
I totally agree about surrounding yourself with people that are better than you. It's not supposed to make you feel bad. It's supposed to make you rise, like we were talking about with the boats and whatnot. But something that I read a little bit ago was Rich Froning. He wanted to get better at running, and he didn't stop training with his current training partners, but he sought out a professional marathon runner, and obviously, like. That person's a lot better than him at running. He's not very good. So he sought them out and started training with them, and now he's a lot better at running. So it wasn't the fact that he wanted to feel bad about himself. It was the fact that he wanted to make himself better as an athlete, to train with other people that are like-minded, that are successful athletes in a different sport. And doing that in CrossFit, or doing that if you're just a business owner, going after other business owners that are in the same field as you, that are really successful, they'll try to help you, and you're going to try to get just as good, or if not better than them. It's trying to make everyone, it's going to build the whole community.
Awesome. So the next point that we're going to talk about is growth mindset. When we hit a plateau, we keep reaching higher and trying to achieve more. We don't stop. When it comes to a fixed mindset, once we hit that plateau, we start to think things aren't working. We quit altogether, or that's the point that we give up. And maybe it's giving up just on an aspect of things, which I see that a lot with like double unders, is that a lot of people see double unders as really that fixed skill. You either have it or you don't. And as we've talked about on other podcasts, it's definitely one of those that you put in the hours, you will get it. And I see that as really a key spot that we see that happening. You guys see any other areas with that one?
I'm going to let Tony take this double under one.
I've talked enough about my double unders. It could happen with weight. If you think, oh, I'm going to hit that 200-pound back squat, and then you just hit it, and then you're done. There's always more. There's always more to achieve. Or someone that's like dying for that first muscle up and gets 2 years to their first muscle up. I'm going to say, awesome, but let's go for 2 in a row. And they're just going to be taken back, like, what? But that's my mindset of growth. It's like, all right, you hit a great accomplishment, but there's always more to be had.
I think also along that same lines is, just because you have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset doesn't mean that you can't celebrate the accomplishments. Like, and we talked about celebrating the process, but you should be celebrating your accomplishments along the way. You just don't want to be, essentially just staying there and just celebrating that indefinitely. Take your time to celebrate it, but then set some new goals, or refocus yourself back on that process again. That kind of touches on all our points, but I want to touch on, where do you guys see this happening the most with athletes? One of the key demographics that I see the fixed mindset happen a lot is with older athletes, with masters athletes, and even some of our best athletes are in this. Our best older athletes is they don't really focus enough attention on technique or improving issues that they have. So they may have a mobility issue and they say, oh, it's just my shoulders, it's just my back. Like I have a shitty back, and they don't work to improve those things. And they see it, maybe they didn't see it as fixed at one point in their lives, but they see it as fixed now. And we have plenty of people that are in their 50s and 60s that are doing things that they never thought they could possibly do, because they've allowed themselves to have a growth mindset. But I think there's still a lot of people putting limitations on certain areas because they have that fixed mindset.
I think the biggest group that stands out to me is the group that is taking part in the competitors class, but they're not fully going for it. So like when they go into a competitors class and they go for like a 1 rep max snatch, they're not truly going to failure. All right, they're not missing a lift. All right, if you're going for a 1 rep max, you're missing a lift, right? Because that means you went for your max. And also when it comes to the whiteboard, you're seeing those people that are trying to be with the competitors sometimes number fluff a little bit. Saying, oh, was that 4 or 5 rounds? Yeah, it was definitely 5 rounds. No, it was probably 6 rounds. And they end up like kind of giving themselves some reps.
I meant 8.
Yeah, why not? But they kind of get in that mindset of trying to look good with the cool kids rather than just being happy with where you are. And that's where, if you get a fixed mindset, you're not going to get better. You gotta be open to the growth and be honest with yourself.
I see it with like the eyeball rollers, like the group of people who come to the whiteboard and just, they're already rolling their eyes, they're already like getting down on the workout, getting down on whatever the movement is, and it's palpable. Like it affects the group, it affects the coach, it affects everyone around them, and to me, that's the most poignant version of a fixed mindset and how it can affect everyone around you. And that you're personally responsible for that. Like you brought that to the table, and yeah, the coach is going to try to fight it off. Other people are going to try to avoid that, but you can't avoid a fixed negative mindset before the workout even starts. Like And there's people that like if that's what's happening when you just come to the gym, like can you imagine like it's happening at home, it's happening at your workplace, like it's happening everywhere. You're already like putting a capacity on yourself and then pretty much calling for something negative to happen.
Having a mix or a fixed mindset definitely closes a lot of doors for you. And if you have the opposite mindset, I mean, those doors are fully open. You're going to have a better workout. Your life's going to be a lot better. You're going to be happier because of the choices you make. Just constantly putting yourself down in these holes of having a fixed mindset, it doesn't do you any good. You're not going to be as successful. And if you're challenging that concept, try being a little more open on one topic, or when you come in the gym, just try to be like, I am feeling kind of crappy right now, but you know what? I'm gonna try to like have some fun during this workout. Or if you're at work and you're like really mean to everyone at work, just try to be nice to one person and see how that affects your day, and you'll be surprised how long that goes, or how that makes your life a lot better.
Exponentially better.
Linearly.
Well played, Tony.
Linearly, exponentially.
All right,
better.
we'll end this episode before we butcher any more words here. Thanks for joining us.